My mother-in-law answered my phone before I could reach it. The caller ID read Family Law Office Holt, timestamp 7:46 a.m. Denise smiled, pressed accept, and said my name like she owned it. The lawyer asked her to not alter or delete any messages. She looked at the phone, then at me, then back at the screen. If she wiped it, I would lose access to my bank account by Monday. What she could not see was the cloud backup already running. That single call turned her help into evidence. I stood at the kitchen counter, fingers wrapped around a chipped mug. Coffee cooled fast when nobody drank it. My cracked phone screen reflected the overhead light from the island, a thin white line running corner to corner like a fault. Denise set the phone down beside a stack of mail and smoothed her sweater, the same way she did before giving advice nobody asked for. "I'm just trying to keep things calm," she said, palm resting on my screen. I nodded because that was easier than arguing at 7 in the morning. I had an 8:30 shift at the dental office. Patients would already be filling out forms, tapping pens, glancing at the clock. Being late meant explaining myself twice. Being late meant whispers. The phone buzzed again. Denise did not pick it up this time. She slid it toward me, slow, controlled, like returning a borrowed knife. I checked the call log. The timestamp sat there, clean and exact. I checked it again. She took my phone to help me. Ethan hovered near the sink, rinsing the same spoon over and over. Water ran. He did not look at either of us. When I asked him later why he stayed quiet, he would say he did not want to make it worse. Silence was his favorite habit. I grabbed my bag, keys clinking. The phone slipped into the side pocket, screen warm. As I stepped onto the driveway, my bank application flashed a warning. Access review pending. No details. Just enough to make my stomach drop. The drive to work blurred into red lights and radio static. At the office, I unlocked the front door at 8:21 a.m., 5 minutes late. The hygienist glanced up. Nothing said, everything noted. Between check-ins, I ducked into the supply room and pulled up my messages. A blurred screenshot sat at the top of my photos, the one Graham told me not to open unless needed. One readable line peeked through the blur. I did not tap it. I locked the screen and slipped the phone back into my pocket, heart-counting time. Every timestamp mattered. At lunch, Nina texted asking if Denise was still helping. I did not answer. I checked the call log again instead, thumb hovering, then tapping back. The entries lined up. Morning. Kitchen. Authority voice. On speaker. When my shift ended, I drove straight home. The church down the road had a meeting that evening. Denise loved those, loved being seen, loved being useful. At the kitchen table, a sealed envelope waited for me. Heavy paper, embossed stamp catching the light. Denise stood nearby, hands folded. "I thought this should be handled properly," she said. I did not open it. I slid it into my bag and zipped it shut, the sound sharp in the quiet room. That night, I placed my phone face up on the table and watched the screen go dark, knowing tomorrow it would light up again with witnesses. At 5:18 p.m., I changed out of scrubs in my bedroom. I rubbed the crease mark off my cheek from the mask I wore all day. My phone sat on the dresser, face up, cracked line catching the lamplight. I checked the call log again, then again, like repetition could turn fear into math. Denise called from the hallway. "We need to be early." I slid the phone into my bag and zipped it shut. My keys clinked against a tube of lip balm. Ethan stood by the closet, tugging at his belt, eyes on the floor. "You're coming," I said. He nodded once. Small. "I'll be there." Denise's perfume hit me before her smile did. She reached for my bag strap like it belonged to her, fingers brushing the zipper. "I'm just trying to keep you from spiraling," she said. I pulled the strap back and stepped past her, shoulder tight. On the way out, I grabbed the sealed envelope from the kitchen counter. The embossed stamp felt rough under my thumb. Her help came with a zipper sound. We drove to the church with the windows up, the air too warm. Outside, the parking lot was packed. Families moved in clusters, shoes clicking on the sidewalk. Ethan parked under the same streetlight we always used, like routine could protect us. In the lobby, the women's group table was already set up. Clipboards, pens on strings, a clear bowl of peppermints. Denise floated right to it, palms open, voice bright. "Talia, honey," she said, loud enough to carry. "I saved you a spot." Nina was there, leaning against a pillar with her arms crossed. She raised her eyebrows at my bag like she could see the phone through it. The church administrator, Mrs. Caldwell, handed me a name tag. Denise leaned in close, voice sweet. "She's been having a hard time," Denise told her. "We're helping her stay organized." Mrs. Caldwell's smile tightened. I felt my stomach drop, not from shame, but from the way Denise said we, like I was a shared project. I slid my phone out just enough to see the screen. No new alerts. I tucked it back and smoothed the sealed envelope against my side. Nina moved closer. "She's doing it again," she murmured. I kept my eyes forward. "I know." Pastor Leon stepped into the lobby, shaking hands. Two ushers, Marcus and Beth, stood near the double doors, scanning the room. Ethan lingered behind me, silent, like a coat hung on a hook. Denise found 5 people in 10 seconds. She laughed. She touched shoulders. She tilted her head in sympathy. I watched her build a story out of air. Then she reached into her purse. She pulled out my phone. Not mine, as in the device. Mine, as in control. She held it upright, cracked screen flashing, like she was showing a photo at a family dinner. "Talia asked me to hold this," she told Mrs. Caldwell, thumb resting on the side button. My hand went to my bag, empty pocket, panic blooming hot. "I did not," I said. Denise turned, smile still pasted on. "Sweetie, you were overwhelmed." "Actually." Nina stepped forward. "Give it back." Denise ignored her. She tapped the screen twice. I saw the call log open in her hand, neat rows of timestamps. 7:46 a.m. Family Law Office, Holt. Her eyes flicked to that line. For half a second, the smile fell off her face. She recovered fast and tilted the phone away from me. "See? She has people calling her all day. It's not healthy." Mrs. Caldwell's eyes widened. Pastor Leon slowed as he passed, like he heard my name and got curious. Ethan finally spoke, voice low. "Mom, maybe." Denise cut him off with a laugh. "I'm protecting my family." My mouth went dry. I could feel every set of eyes landing on my hands, my bag, the sealed envelope pressed to my ribs. I stepped forward, palm out. "Hand it to me." Denise's thumb hovered over the screen, like she was deciding whether to swipe, delete, erase. Her nails were freshly painted, pale pink, careful. I watched that thumb like it was a weapon. Nina leaned in, whisper sharp. "Call your lawyer right now." I could not. Denise had the phone. So, I did the next best thing. I pulled my spare key ring from my bag and slid the little metal fob between my fingers, grounding myself in something cold and real. Then, I opened my bag wide, so everyone could see inside. "I have nothing to hide," I said, louder than I meant to. Denise's eyes narrowed. "Then, why are you keeping secrets?" She reached into her purse again and pulled out a folded paper, not the sealed envelope. Something smaller. Something printed. She unfolded it and held it up like a receipt. I recognized the blurred screenshot from my photo gallery. The one I never opened, the one Graham told me not to touch. Denise had printed it. She printed my blurred screenshot and brought it to church. The lobby went quiet in that way public places do when people decide to watch. Pastor Leon stopped completely. Mrs. Caldwell's hand went to her necklace. Ethan took one step back like distance could save him. Denise smiled at the circle forming around us, then read the single clear line out loud, careful and slow. And when she finished, she looked straight at me and said, "Now tell them what that means." I did not answer her. Not yet. I stared at the paper in Denise's hand, the cheap ink, the crooked trim where she must have cut it with kitchen scissors. The blur was still there, but that one clear line sat like a needle. "Move it before Friday. Do not tell Talia." Denise held it higher, letting the lobby lights hit it. Her wrist stayed steady, her eyes stayed bright. Nina's breath caught beside me. Ethan made a small sound in his throat and swallowed it. Pastor Leon looked between us like he wanted to disappear into the carpet. Mrs. Caldwell's mouth opened, then closed. Denise tilted her head. "Well?" she said, like I was on trial in the foyer. I reached into my bag and pulled out the sealed envelope. The embossed stamp scraped under my thumbnail. I did not open it. I just held it up, one hand on each edge, keeping it flat. "That line," I said, voice even, "is why I hired Graham." Denise's smile twitched. "You hired a lawyer against family?" "Against family. Not against her. Not against the hand on my phone. Against the idea of family. Like I was the one breaking it." I took a slow breath and looked at Ethan. "Did you write that?" His eyes snapped up. He looked at the printed blur, then at Denise. He did not speak. Silence was his tell. Always had been. Mrs. Caldwell cleared her throat. "Maybe we should take this into the side office." Denise laughed, soft and scolding. "She always overreacts." I stepped closer until I could see my own reflection in the cracked phone screen Denise still held. The line in the glass cut across my cheek. "Give me my phone," I said. Denise tightened her grip. "Not when you're like this." I felt the heat climb my neck, but I kept my hands open. No grabbing, no scene. Not yet. Nina leaned in, voice low. "You do not have to explain. Just document." Document. That was the whole thing. That was what Graham kept saying. "Do not argue. Do not spiral. Let them make the record for you." Pastor Leon lifted a hand. "Denise, we need to de-escalate." And pleaded. Denise turned to him like she had been waiting for it. "Pastor, she's been unstable lately. She's paranoid about her phone. I'm trying to help her." The words hit hard because they were clean, simple, believable. She had practiced them. My fingers curled around the edge of the sealed envelope until the paper bent. "Repeat that," I said, eyes on her, slowly. Denise blinked once. Then she smiled wider, like she had won. "She's paranoid. She thinks everyone is out to get her." Two-way. Nina's jaw clenched. Ethan shifted his weight. Mrs. Caldwell looked down at the floor tiles like they might offer instructions. I nodded once, small. "Okay," I said. I turned and walked toward the side office door. Not fast, not dramatic, just moving. I pushed it open with my shoulder and stepped inside. The office smelled like copier toner and old coffee. A desk lamp cast a yellow circle on a stack of donation forms. A stapler sat near the edge, heavy and metal. I pulled my own phone charger from my bag and set it on the desk like a marker. Then, I set the sealed envelope beside it. 2 objects, 2 anchors. Mrs. Caldwell followed me in, hands half raised. "Talia!" I looked at her, then down at my bag. My spare phone. I kept it powered off for weeks because Ethan said it was dramatic. Nina called it smart. I turned it on. The screen lit. A flood of notifications rolled in, delayed by silence. Missed calls. New messages. A calendar invite change. I opened the shared calendar first, thumb steady, because Graham told me the truth always lives in scheduling. People forget their lies when they are trying to be on time. There it was, a private entry I had never seen before, newly surfaced after the sync. Meeting with Denise Assets. Time: 6:30 a.m. Date: March 14. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Ethan had put it in the calendar, and then hidden it from me. That was the twist. Not that Denise meddled. I expected that. It was that Ethan let her plan inside our life, right on the schedule. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Denise's heels, quick and confident. I tapped the entry and saw the location field. Graham Holt, Suite 410. My stomach dropped, cold and heavy. Denise did not just take my phone. She had taken Ethan to my lawyer's building first. The office door swung open, and Denise stepped in with my phone in her hand. Denise stepped into that office like she paid rent. My phone was in her hand, screen turned inward, hidden. Mrs. Caldwell hovered behind her, eyes wide, breath shallow. The desk lamp threw a hard shadow over the stapler, and the charger I had placed like boundaries. Denise looked at my spare phone in my palm. "So you've been hiding things," she said. "No," I told her. "I've been preparing." She scoffed and lifted my phone. "Preparing for what, exactly?" I did not answer. I opened the shared calendar entry again, then checked it twice. My thumb moved the same way every time, like a habit I could trust when people could not. Ethan scheduled her like an appointment. Denise leaned forward. "Give me that." I slid my spare phone back into my bag and zipped it shut. The zipper sound felt like a door closing. Mrs. Caldwell finally found her voice. "Denise, please, this is not appropriate." Denise turned sweet. "I'm trying to help her." She spirals. "Is coming in question." I looked at Mrs. Caldwell. "Can you step outside?" Mrs. Caldwell hesitated, then nodded, and left the door half open. The hallway noise washed in, church voices, shoes on tile. A public place pretending this was private. Denise lowered her voice, sharp now. "You're not going to embarrass my son." I kept my hands flat on the desk, palms down. "Then stop holding my phone." She smiled without warmth. "Make me." My spare phone vibrated in my bag, a muffled buzz. I did not give her that satisfaction. I stood and lifted the sealed envelope from the desk. The embossed stamp caught the light like a warning. I slid it into my bag with slow care. Denise's eyes tracked it. "What's in there?" "Something you should have left alone," I said. I walked out of the side office without rushing. Nina was waiting in the hallway. Arms crossed. Face tight. "What did she do?" she asked. I tilted my head toward my bag. She took my phone. Again. "Eight." Nina's lips pressed into a line. "Then we do it the clean way." We left the lobby together. Outside, the air was humid, thick on my skin. Ethan waited by the car under the streetlight, hands in his pockets, shoulders rounded like he wanted to be smaller. He looked at me first, then at my bag, then at his mother. Denise walked out behind us, my phone still in her hand, like a trophy. "Get in," Ethan said, too quiet. I did not move. I stared at him. "You put a meeting with your mother on our calendar." His jaw jumped once. "It was not like that." "It says assets," I replied, voice flat. "And it has a location." Denise laughed. "You're reading too much into a word." Nina stepped closer, eyes on Ethan. "Why is it at your lawyer's building?" Ethan's face drained. He glanced at Denise, then away, like he was asking permission to speak. That was my answer. I got into the car anyway, because I still had to be at work in the morning. Because I still had bills. Because life does not pause for betrayal. At home, I stood in the kitchen and opened my laptop. The light from the screen painted my hands pale. I pulled my bank statements up and printed the last 2 months, page after page, warm paper sliding into the tray. Denise's voice echoed in my head. "Help, calm, protect." I lined the pages across the table corner, smoothing each one flat. The numbers were not huge. That was the point. Small transfers hide better than big ones. One pattern jumped out after the third page. Deposits split into 2 amounts, landing minutes apart. Like someone wanted the totals to look normal at a glance. I circled the times with a pen. Then I checked them again. Then I checked them a second time, slower. The money moved in pairs, like footsteps. Nina sat across from me, tapping her nail against a receipt she had pulled from my trash. It had a double staple, crooked, like it had been rushed. She slid it toward me. "Look at the date," she said. The date matched one of the split deposits. My stomach tightened. A deposit on the same day as a receipt I did not remember. A charge I did not authorize. A tiny leak. Repeated. Ethan came into the kitchen and froze when he saw the table. Paper everywhere. Pen marks. Circles and lines like a map out of a bad neighborhood. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Counting," I said. He stepped closer, reaching for one page. I slapped my palm down on it before he could lift it. "Don't," I said. He pulled his hand back fast, like he had touched a hot pan. "You're making this worse." I laughed once, short. "No, I'm finally seeing it." His eyes flicked to the printer, then to my bag by the chair. "Where's your phone?" I looked at him. "Ask your mother." He swallowed. "She said you asked her to hold it." Nina's head snapped up. "She's lying." Ethan's shoulders sagged, but he still did not say the word. Lying. He avoided it, like it had teeth. I slid one statement toward him and tapped the circled deposits with the pen tip. "Tell me what these are," I said. He stared at the ink circles. His mouth opened, then closed. He reached for a glass in the drying rack and filled it with water, hands shaking just enough to notice. He drank like he could wash the truth down. I stood and walked to the hallway closet, where we kept old paperwork. I pulled out a red folder, tabbed with labels from years ago. I had not touched it since we bought the house. I carried it back like it weighed more than paper. I set it on the table with a hard, final sound. Ethan flinched. Nina leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "What's in that?" I opened the folder. Inside was a printed notice I had ignored weeks ago because I was tired and busy and trying to be nice. "Access review pending." But the new line at the bottom made my skin go cold. "Additional, authorized user added." I looked at the name. Denise Reed. The next Sunday, I parked under the same church streetlight. My hands did not shake this time. I made them useful. I carried the red folder against my ribs. Inside, the bank statements were clipped and clean, pages smoothed flat. Nina walked beside me in low heels, phone in her hand, ready. Ethan followed 2 steps behind, too quiet, like he hoped the carpet would swallow him. In the lobby, the air smelled like lemon cleaner and perfume. The women's group table was set up again, the same clear bowl of peppermints, the same clipboards with pens on strings. Pastor Leon stood near the double doors, talking to Mrs. Caldwell. 2 ushers, Marcus and Beth, watched the flow of people like a slow tide. Denise was already there, laughing with the women's group leader, Carla. Her hair was perfect, her smile was generous. My phone was not in her hand today, but her posture said she still owned it. She saw me and tilted her head, soft concern. "There you are." I set the folder on a small round table near the pamphlets, the one people used to stack coats. The sound was sharp enough to turn heads. Denise Reed was listed as an authorized user. Denise's eyes flicked to the folder. "Talia, please." "Not here." "Here is exactly where," Nina said, voice flat. Ethan cleared his throat. "Can we just talk at home?" I looked at him. "We tried home. Your mother added herself to my account. In my nest." Denise stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was doing me a favor. "You're confused. You've been overwhelmed." Pastor Leon drifted toward us, worry carved between his eyebrows. "Is everything okay?" Denise smiled at him like a practiced prayer. Then she turned to the small circle forming around us and said, loud enough to carry, "She's unstable. That's why we took over her phone." The lobby went still. A few people stopped mid-step. Carla's hand froze above the peppermint bowl. "Mrs." Caldwell's mouth tightened. Marcus and Beth both leaned in without meaning to. My skin went cold, then hot. I held Denise's eyes and spoke clearly, like reading a line in a room full of strangers. "Repeat that, slowly." Denise blinked once. Her smile returned, wider, braver. "She's unstable," she said again, slower. "We had to take over her phone. That second time was the gift. It landed in the room like a stamp." Nina lifted her phone slightly, not hidden, not dramatic, just visible. Denise noticed it a beat too late. Pastor Leon's face shifted. "Denise, that is a serious claim." Denise turned to him. "Pastor, I'm protecting my son. She's been getting calls from a family law office. She's paranoid about money. She's making scenes." I opened the red folder. The pages fluttered once in the air conditioning, then settled. I slid one statement out and placed it on top like a placemat. "This is not paranoia," I said. "This is a pattern." Denise scoffed. "Anyone can circle numbers." I picked up my own spare phone from my bag, thumb already poised. I had printed everything for the room, but I needed the authority voice, the one she could not charm. I tapped one contact, then hit speaker. Family Law Office, Holt, a woman answered, crisp and professional. Hi, I said. This is Talia Reed. I'm at Street Mark's lobby. I need Attorney Graham Holt on the line. There was a short pause, then a click, then a new voice, calm and steady. Talia, Graham said. I'm here. Denise's chin lifted. This is inappropriate. Graham did not react to her tone. He spoke to the room like facts were furniture. For clarity, are you in possession of Talia Reed's primary phone? Denise's lips parted, then closed. She looked around at Pastor Leon, at Mrs. Caldwell, at Carla. Witnesses. Too many. Ethan exhaled like a tire losing air. She asked me to help, Denise said finally. Graham's voice stayed even. That phone's message records were preserved before the device was taken. Any deletions would be visible. Denise's face tightened. You can't prove intent. I slid the bank statement closer to the edge of the table, so Carla and Pastor Leon could see. I tapped the circled deposits with my fingernail. A soft, steady click. These deposits come in pairs, I said. Minutes apart, same days, same rhythm. Denise leaned forward, too quick. That's normal. I don't know. It is not normal, I said, and my voice did not crack. Not when the receipt matches. Nina slid the double-stapled receipt onto the table like a final card. The staple glinted under the lobby lights. People leaned in without touching it, like it might bite. Graham spoke again. Talia, read the name listed as additional authorized user. I lifted the page. Paper shook once, then steadied in my hands. Denise Reed, I said. A sound moved through the circle, not a gasp, more like a hush, a recalculation. Pastor Leon stared at Denise. Denise, did you add yourself to her account? Denise laughed, sharp now. I was protecting their household. Mrs. Caldwell stepped forward, voice clipped. That is not protection, that is access. Ethan finally found words, but they came out small. Mom, why did you do that? Denise snapped her gaze to him. Because you were too weak to lead. The sentence hung there, ugly and honest. I saw Pastor Leon's shoulders square. I saw Beth, one of the ushers, shift her weight toward Denise, not me. Denise looked back at me, eyes narrowed. You think this makes you look good? This makes you look unwell. Graham cut in, gentle and lethal. Denise, you made a public statement about instability. We have that recorded. Denise's eyes flicked to Nina's phone again. Too late. I lifted my spare phone slightly so the screen light touched my palm. No theatrics, just proof existing in the open. 7:46 a.m. was the timestamp she could not erase. Pastor Leon took a slow breath. Denise, I'm going to ask you to step into the office with Mrs. Caldwell. Denise's smile returned in pieces. Pastor, don't do this. Mrs. Caldwell's voice stayed firm. Denise looked around, searching for someone to rescue her. She landed on Ethan. He did not move. Nina leaned close to me, whispering, You did it. You made it public. My throat tightened anyway. Not from fear. From release. Denise turned toward the office, shoulders stiff, and as she passed the pamphlet rack, something slipped from her purse and skidded on the tile. A keycard sleeve. I looked down and saw a printed label on it, black text on white. Suite 410. I did not pick up the keycard sleeve. Not at first. I watched it lie there on the church tile, the label facing up like it wanted to be read. Suite 410. The same words I had seen in the shared calendar location field. The same building. The same floor. The same quiet, ugly coordination. Nina nudged it with the tip of her shoe. Careful. Do you see that? I see it, I said, and my voice stayed low. Pastor Leon and Mrs. Caldwell had already guided Denise toward the side office. Denise walked stiff, chin lifted, like posture could undo facts. Carla stood by the peppermint bowl, hand pressed to her chest. Marcus and Beth kept their eyes on Denise, not me. That was the power shift. Not yelling, not crying. Witnesses choosing where to look. I crouched and slid the keycard sleeve into the red folder pocket without touching the label. Paper against plastic. Proof filed like it belonged there. Then I checked my phone log again, twice. Habit, but now it felt like control. Outside, the air hit my face like a wet towel. I stood under the streetlight and breathed in through my nose, slow. The parking lot sounded normal. Doors closing, kids laughing, engines turning over. Life refusing to stop for anyone's drama. Ethan followed me out, hands empty, shoulders slumped. His tie sat crooked like he had tugged it too many times. "Talia," he said. I kept my keys in my fist, metal teeth biting my palm. "Say it," he swallowed. "I let her take your phone." "That's not the whole sentence," I said. He looked toward the glass doors, toward the lobby where his mother was being asked to explain herself. "I thought she was helping." I turned to him. "Helping who?" He flinched at that. Because he knew. We drove home in separate cars. I did not trust silence in the same space anymore. At the house, I walked straight to the kitchen table and laid out the folder again. Statements. Receipt. The page that listed Denise as an authorized user. The keycard sleeve. Nina sat across from me, quiet now. My spare phone rang once. I picked it up on the second ring, thumb steady. "Talia," Graham said. I received the audio file. "I did not have to beg," I said. "No," he replied. "You let her say it twice." I looked at the keycard sleeve. "There's more," I said. "Suite 410. Graham paused for half a breath, then his tone shifted into procedure. "Do not contact her. Do not threaten. Keep everything. Tomorrow, we request the bank's authorization record and device possession timeline. That creates the clean correction." Clean correction. That was what I wanted. Not a screaming match, not revenge fantasies, a public undoing of the lie she tried to pin on me. The next morning, I went to work at 8:30 on the dot. I wore the same plain studs I always wore. I checked in patience. I smiled when I needed to. My manager voice came out smooth because I had practiced it for years. At 10:14 a.m., my phone buzzed with an email notification from my bank. I opened it with 2 fingers like it might cut me. Authorized user removed. Denise Reed. Geez. I did not exhale yet. I forwarded it to Graham. Then I forwarded it to Nina. At noon, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Mrs. Caldwell. "Pastor Leon wants you to know. Denise has been asked to step down from her volunteer role." Volunteer role. At that church, that meant more than a title. It meant access. It meant influence. It meant who got believed first. I stood in the staff break room, hand on the counter, staring at the screen until the letters steadied. The vending machine hummed. Someone's lunch smelled like microwaved pasta. Ordinary life, holding space for justice. That evening, Nina and I went back to the church to drop off a copy of the bank confirmation for the file they said they were keeping. Mrs. Caldwell met us at the lobby desk, face serious, hands polite. She took the paper, like it mattered. Carla walked in while we were there. She stopped when she saw me. Cheeks flushing. "I'm sorry," she said. I repeated what Denise said. End quote. I nodded once. "Thank you for telling me." She looked at my phone, then at my face. "You're not unstable." "No," I said. I was being managed. Carla's eyes softened. "I see that now." When I stepped outside, the sunlight was low and golden. I sat in my car for a minute without turning the key. I pulled my phone out and looked at the cracked line across the glass. It had been there the whole time, a flaw I kept carrying. I opened my messages and scrolled to the top, not to reread pain, but to confirm the timestamps were still there, locked and quiet. Then I tapped the screen off and placed the phone face down on the passenger seat. A simple act, a private rhythm. No more hands on it but mine.